Sorry guys, it has been a little while since I last posted a video, but it's because I've been feeling a little uninspired in all honesty. So I'm hoping that this little trip here is going to help with that.
With the winter dragging on here in Canada, the weather has been snowy, wet, cold and grey. The snowpack in the mountains is high and unstable, making visiting new locations pretty challenging. Being limited to visiting the same old spots has made me, quite literally, yearn for new pastures. And where better than to find some very green pastures than here in North Wales. Already with the sun shining and not a snowflake in sight, I can feel my motivation coming back.
You know, it sounds a little bit ungrateful to be honest with you, but I've been uninspired by the Canadian Rockies. And you might be able to tell that right now I'm not in the Canadian Rockies. And you can probably tell that because it's not covered in snow. We've had a lot of snow in April in the Rockies, and it makes shooting really difficult, to be honest with you. It makes getting outside difficult, it makes motivation really, really hard. So at the moment, I'm in the UK. I've come back for a trip to see some family, and we're on a little trip within the trip here in North Wales. And you can see we've got this beautiful little cabin behind us here, and we're staying right in the heart of the Welsh countryside. So just north of us, there is a little beach, I think called Talacre Beach. Has a beautiful lighthouse on it, and that is where we're going to shoot tonight. That's going to be my main place where I'm going to shoot after we've kind of explored the area around here a little bit. And what I'm hoping is shooting something that I don't normally have the opportunity to shoot, shooting the coastline, shooting the lighthouse that's down there, will hopefully inspire me a little bit more, give me a little bit more motivation, inspiration, and hopefully when I get back to the Rockies, I'll feel a little bit more motivated to get outside and shoot more there as well. So sometimes I feel like you just need that little change of scenery, and I think this is a fantastic one to get. And one of the main reasons we've come to this beach this evening, to Talacre Beach, is because of this. Talacre Lighthouse, and I'm hoping I can get a few different shots of this lighthouse from a few different angles. The sun is nice and soft in the sky, we've got some high cloud, it's probably an hour before sunset, but we'll have a bit of a scope around, and there's lots of options here because we've got this big open space, something we don't tend to have in the Rockies, but lots of easy access points. I can walk around, get some different shots, hopefully with some people in, maybe some horses, maybe some dog walkers, but we'll see what we can find. So the first shot I'm going to take here is just with the lighthouse, just bang center of the image. Like the light's really nice and soft, and there's a little bit of side lighting on the lighthouse. And then obviously we've got these kind of muted tones of the sand, and then again this kind of pastel-y, light blue, white sky behind it. And I think that just kind of works. That little pop of red, it just looks really nice. Really nice and simple way to start off this little photo shoot tonight. Just going to shoot this handheld at about f7. ISO 100, 200 to a second.
I also felt those muted pastel tones worked beautifully in this more abstract shot. Already I was finding the change of scenery more inspiring.
But I think what's actually working really well at this little spot is shooting from the air a little bit, shooting with the drone. Again, something I can just never really do in the Rockies because you can't really fly drones in any of the national parks. But you can get up a little bit higher here. I can kind of show you on the controller, maybe a little bit here as well, show you on the video. But essentially what I'm able to do is get a little bit higher up and get a little bit more of that path that kind of leads into the front of the lighthouse. Just get that little bit of elevation so it runs from the front of frame to the back. And also there's some really beautiful patterns actually in the sand behind the lighthouse. So if you go up higher again as well, you get those in the background, which is really nice. And then we've also got this nice little red top on the lighthouse here as well, which is really helping it stand out from the scene and kind of pop a little bit. So there's some really nice shots on the drone actually. And then what I've actually discovered here whilst flying this drone around as well, is that round the back there's a really nice reflection of the lighthouse in the kind of remaining seawater behind, and a couple of seagulls kind of floating around in there as well. So I've swung the drone all the way around the back, again a little bit elevated to get that reflection. And again, I think that's going to turn out pretty nice. Really nice to be able to fly around there because the sand is pretty muddy and pretty dirty over there, so I'm quite glad I can just fly the drone over there actually. This is becoming quite the drone photo session, but I think I've got some good images. Now, I don't mean to seem kind of ungrateful when I say I'm uninspired by the Canadian Rockies at the moment, but I think the thing is with the Rockies is you end up in a lot of these photography locations that have a lot of grandeur to them. They're very iconic. You're often at a famous lake with a very famous mountain in the background. And what I have a habit of doing, and what a lot of people do in the Rockies, is you plonk yourself down in front of that lake, you get the nice reflection, and you get a pretty standard composition that a lot of people get too. And that doesn't mean you're going to get bad photographs. In fact, a lot of those areas are really well suited for kind of workshops and tours, because if you're on a trip there, like a once in a lifetime trip, you're going to go to those locations and get those really good images without having to try very hard at all. You don't have to scope out different areas of the same scene to find a composition that's different or more interesting. The one you've got in front of you is pretty incredible. And in some ways that does really limit your creativity. But what I do like about places like this, and about a lot of the places in the UK, is that in some ways they are actually more easily accessible. And I know that kind of sounds a little bit contradictory, because some of those big iconic locations in the Canadian Rockies are easy access, right? You drive up in your car, take your tripod out and plonk yourself by the lake. And I don't mean that this is more easy than that to access, but what I mean is when I get here, right? Same thing, drive up in the car, take the tripod and the camera out, walk down to the beach. But once I'm here, there are a lot more options to shoot this beach in lots and lots of different ways, right? I'm not going to walk away with like one iconic image. I'm going to walk away with, you know, a bunch of different shots from all around here, because I'm not trying to fight that extreme weather. I'm not trying to fight deep snow. And what I do find in the Rockies is when you want to move away from those iconic locations, you are a bit more limited. And you're limited for a couple of reasons, right? One, obviously stuff is difficult to access away from the roads. You have to hike for a long time, you have to kind of wade through snow or wear snowshoes to get to somewhere, or battle the cold. It can definitely be a lot more work. And also there's just so much more private land in Alberta especially, and in Canada, that it's harder to just find somewhere small to pull up, to walk into the woods and shoot without going onto someone's land that you might not really meant to be on. You have the right to roam in the UK. Once you get to beaches like this, you can kind of walk absolutely everywhere, look at everything. And same goes in the towns in the countryside, right? You can really walk around and explore and find different compositions within the same small area. And then you can just find more compositions without the risk of getting eaten by wildlife, getting incredibly cold, or having to put in an absolute ton of effort to hike. So it's super fun shooting places like this, and it gives me a bit of a boost, right? I'm not just distracted by the amazing mountain in front of me. I'm like, how can I shoot this in a bunch of different ways tonight to get some really good shots? And I'm really enjoying it.
Right, this guy is going on a bit. I think he should probably start writing some scripts. But I think what he's really saying is not shooting those easy access famous locations in the Rockies can make it a little bit easier sometimes to have your own unique take on a location.
For the last couple of shots for this evening, we've actually come up into the sand dunes up here, a little bit away from the lighthouse, and you can see we've got this really nice grass growing out of the sand. And what I'm doing is using that as a bit of a foreground, an out of focus foreground, to kind of dirty the frame a little bit, give it a bit of depth. And just the tones, again, the muted grass against the muted sky in the lighthouse, I think is working really well. As we walk further away from the lighthouse as well, it's also offering a few other little opportunities, just again with the grass bank and the top of the lighthouse just behind there. Right, so the best of the light has gone. That nice sort of soft side light that was on the lighthouse earlier on has disappeared because the sun has pretty much dipped behind some clouds in the distance. It's not quite sunset, but I'm not going to stick around any longer. And I think I've actually got some good images from today. I think I've got kind of 6 or 7 images, all from this one spot. And I don't often get that from locations in the Canadian Rockies. So it's been really refreshing and motivating shooting somewhere new, somewhere a little bit different. And trying to make YouTube videos, especially in the Canadian Rockies, is tough, right? It's pretty difficult, especially during winter, because you just do not have the opportunity to get out and photograph a variety of locations, and then you end up visiting the same places in the exact same spots and, you know, ending up with the same compositions, which is a bit of a shame. But I would be interested in knowing what you guys think of all that actually. Do you prefer to go to locations that have these big grand vistas, these big grand landscapes, and maybe places you've seen before and just kind of get that one iconic shot? Or do you prefer coming to places like this where you can kind of play around a bit more, maybe get a bit more creative, get a bit more inspired, and just walk away with a bunch of good images that aren't maybe of like a very famous spot? I don't know, I'm not sure. I really like shooting like this, to be honest with you. And I think maybe I need to take this on board and actually try and find more creative and different ways to shoot those more iconic locations in the Canadian Rockies, those places that I do revisit a bunch, and just shoot them differently. Or go and find new locations that aren't those iconic, exciting spots, those ones that nobody really knows about. And I've got a good opportunity to find them. So hopefully that's what I'll do more of this summer. The next video, I probably will be back in the Rockies, but hopefully with a little bit more motivation and a little bit more inspiration.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you on the next video. But in the meantime, be sure to download a Canadian Rockies photography location guide using the QR code on screen or the link in the description below. And go on, watch another video.